Hello students, welcome back. In this class, we are going to discuss an overview of cell. An overview of cell is nothing but what and all there in a cell. Just a brief explanation about what and all which are present in a cell, that is called an overview of cell. Actually, a typical cell comprising of usually an envelope, cytoplasm and nucleus. So in general, a typical cell comprising of an envelope, cytoplasm and nucleus. So what is this envelope? Here envelope is nothing but outer covering. So envelope refers to outer covering, and within the envelope we can find the presence of cytoplasm and nucleus. These are commonly present in a cell. You may have earlier observed the cells of onion are cells in an onion peel under the microscope. In your previous classes you have learned that, and you may have seen or you may have observed the cells in the onion peel under the microscope. Just recall what type of cells you have observed under the microscope by taking the onion peel. When you look at the cells of onion are looking like this. So the cells are usually rectangular or polygonal in shape. So you can look like this. So these are the cells of onion. Even you can observe in our lab when you come to the practical classes, you can observe the onion peel under the microscope, so that you can observe the cell envelope and cytoplasm. Within the cytoplasm there is a presence of nucleus. Likewise we can observe under the microscope. So this is the cells of onion peel under the microscope. And this onion cell, it is a typical plant cell, isn't it? So onion, what we are taking, it is a plant. So onion cell, what we are observing, it is a typical plant cell. And this plant cell which is having the distinct cell wall. The plant cell which is having a distinct cell wall as its outermost boundary. So the outermost boundary or outermost covering in any plant cell is called as a cell wall, and just within the cell wall we can find one more membrane. It is called cell membrane. So in a typical plant cell which is having the outermost boundary called as a cell wall, and just within the cell wall there is another membrane called as cell membrane. But in case of animal cell, they have only cell membrane as its outermost boundary, but they are lacking cell wall. Which means in animal cell, we cannot find the presence of cell wall. They have only cell membrane as its outermost boundary. You will clearly understand when we talk about the the plant and animal cells in detail. Now you just remember here plant cell. The onion cell, it is a typical plant cell which is having outermost boundary is a cell wall, and just within the cell wall there is cell membrane. But in case of animal cell, they do not contain cell wall, but the outermost boundary will be the cell membrane. And inner to cell membrane, or we can say the cell membrane encloses a dense viscous fluid called as protoplasm. Let me take one single cell of the onion, or we can take the plant cell or animal cell. When we look at the cell, let it be a plant cell or animal cell. So in case of plant cell, the outermost boundary is cell wall, and just within the cell wall we can find the presence of cell membrane. But in case of animal cell, they have only cell membrane as its outermost boundary. And within the cell membrane encloses a dense, a thick, viscous, it is like a sticky fluid called as a protoplasm. And this protoplasm, it is differentiated into cytoplasm and nucleus. So in this cell also we can find the presence of nucleus along with cytoplasm. Here also nucleus along with cytoplasm. So nucleus along with cytoplasm together, it is called as a protoplasm. Here also it is protoplasm, here also it is a protoplasm. When you will say that it is a protoplasm, if both nucleus and cytoplasm is present, it is called as a protoplasm. Generally, in all cells, we can find the presence of both nucleus and cytoplasm. It is called as, together it is called as a protoplasm. So here, cell wall is there, cell membrane, and cell membrane generally encloses the dense viscous fluid called as protoplasm, and protoplasm is differentiated into cytoplasm and nucleus. Generally, we can say cytoplasm plus nucleus is equal to protoplasm. You can remember this formula. So here, cytoplasm plus nucleus is equal to protoplasm. Yeah, cytoplasm plus nucleus is equal to protoplasm. And now let us discuss what is this cytoplasm. This cytoplasm is actually a semi-fluid. We cannot say exactly it is fluid. It is a semi-fluid and it is the main area for most of the cellular activity. So within the cell, majority of the cellular activities are taking place in this cytoplasm. For example, this is the cell, this is the cytoplasm, and cytoplasm is the main area for all cellular activities. So what are these cellular activities? Here cellular activities is nothing but the biochemical reactions. Most of the biochemical reactions will be taking place within this cytoplasm. When you study the respiration chapter, respiration and photosynthesis chapter, you will understand which are the types of biochemical reactions taking place in cytoplasm. Here, you just remember cytoplasm, it is a semi-fluid and which is the site for most of the cellular activity. Majority of the biochemical reactions are taking place within the cytoplasm. And cytoplasm is made up of many or various organic and inorganic substances. We can find some organic substances, some inorganic substances within this cytoplasm. And cytoplasm also contains some membrane bound structures called as organelles. Membrane bound structures called as organelles. Some organelles having membrane and some organelles they do not have membrane. If they contain membrane, they are called as membrane bound cell organelles. If they do not contain membrane, they are non-membranous organelles. Or we can say membranous and non-membranous. Here membranous cell organelles they have a membrane, a specific membrane, and here in non-membranous they do not have a membrane. See examples for membrane bound cell organelles in this cytoplasm. Both membrane bound cell organelles are also present and non-membranous cell organelles are also present. Then which are the membranous cell organelles? They are like mitochondria, Golgi complex, endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, etc. And the non-membranous cell organelles like centrosomes and ribosomes. These are very important. The membrane bound structures are called as organelles. If they contain membrane, they are membranous. If they do not contain membrane, they are non-membranous structures. And the membrane bound cell organelles are mitochondria, Golgi complex, chloroplast, endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, etc. But the non-membranous cell organelles are centrosomes and ribosomes. And even the cytoplasm encloses many non-living inclusions. The cytoplasm encloses non-living inclusions. We cannot consider them as like a cell. So they are usually like a non-living inclusions. We generally call them as non-living inclusions like vacuoles. So non-living inclusions like vacuoles, the reserve food material. So reserve food materials, you know that in bacteria, reserve food materials like volutin, oil droplets, glycogen, etc. Similarly, the vacuoles, reserve food material, some secretory products and excretory products. So secretory products, they help in certain secretion, and excretory products helps in excretion process. So all these are the non-living inclusions which are present in the cytoplasm. So what is actually protoplasm? Protoplasm, which is differentiated into cytoplasm and nucleus, and cytoplasm, it is a semi-fluid and which is the main area for most of the cellular activities, and majority of the biochemical reactions are taking place in the cytoplasm. And what and all the structures we can find within the cytoplasm? Generally, the cytoplasm is made up of various organic and inorganic substances which contains the membrane bound cell organelles, like examples I have given, and non-membranous cell organelles, along with some non-living inclusions like vacuoles, reserve food materials, secretory products and excretory products. So all these are present within the cytoplasm. And next thing is nucleus. This cytoplasm also encloses a dense granular structure called as nucleus. The cytoplasm also encloses a dense granular structure called as, or we can say dense spherical structure called as nucleus. Now we will talk about the nucleus. So this nucleus is very, very important, and you know what are prokaryotes and what are eukaryotes. If the cell contains true nucleus in the sense membrane bound nucleus, it is called as eukaryote. If the cell contains membrane bound nucleus, then it is called as eukaryote. If they do not contain a membrane bound nucleus, it is called as a prokaryote. Now we will see how the nucleus is different from the prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell, especially in case of eukaryotes. In case of eukaryotes, the nucleus is dense, it is quite thicker, and which is darkly stainable. So darkly stainable in the sense when we stain in our laboratory to color the colorless material, we use certain chemicals called as stains. So when we stain the plant cell or animal cell, especially this nucleus will absorb more stain. That's why it looks like darker when compared to the cytoplasm. As the cytoplasm is just a fluid, it absorbs less stain, but this nucleus, which is a dense structure, which will take more stain and which is darkly stainable, and which is usually spherical in nature, which is spherical and which is enclosed by a nuclear membrane. In case of eukaryotes, you will find a membrane bound nucleus. So this is the membrane we can find in case of eukaryotes. So spherical nucleus is present, which is enclosed by a nuclear membrane or nuclear envelope. So this is the nuclear membrane, and this nuclear membrane encloses a nucleoplasm. So what and all these we will study in detail when we talk about the nucleus. So everything you can understand in detail in this chapter. Now you just remember, in case of eukaryotes, there is a membrane bound nucleus, and this membrane encloses the fluid called as nucleoplasm and another dense structure called as a nucleolus. It is nucleus. Within the nucleus there is a nucleolus and a thread-like structure called as chromatin or chromatin network. The thread-like structures which are present within the nucleus is called as a chromatin network, and which in turn contain the genetic material DNA. So where the DNA, the genetic material, is usually present, which is present in the chromatin network. Later this chromatin network will condense to form chromosomes, and chromosomes generally contains the genetic material DNA. So here in eukaryotes, the nucleus is spherical, darkly stainable structure which is enclosed by a specific nuclear membrane, and which also encloses nucleoplasm, nucleolus and the thread-like chromatin network, which in turn contain the genetic material DNA. So this is in case of eukaryotes. What about in case of prokaryotes? You already studied the structure of bacteria. In case of prokaryotes, the DNA, which is generally which is usually present in the cytoplasm. Just for example, this is a bacteria. Here you have seen the genetic material DNA, which is directly coiled in the cytoplasm. And this DNA is not enclosed by any nuclear membrane. In any prokaryote, the DNA or genetic material which is not enclosed by a nuclear membrane, that's why these are called as prokaryotes. Why they are called as prokaryotes? Because they do not contain membrane bound nucleus, and this nucleus is called as nucleoid or false nucleus. I have given many names. The nucleoid, incipient nucleus, false nucleus, etc. because of the absence of specific nuclear membrane around the genetic material. So this is the main difference between the prokaryote and eukaryote, and these are the main two types of cells, the prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell, and we will be discussing in detail both the prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. So till now you can understand eukaryotes, which type of nucleus is present in eukaryotes and which type of nucleus is present in prokaryotes. So this is a overview of this cell. Just this much is enough, and remaining what and all the structures which are present in the cytoplasm, like as I said, the membrane bound organelles, non-membranous organelles, what is this structure of nucleus, chromosome, everything we are going to discuss in detail, but here it is just an overview. This much is enough for this. Now we will talk about the size of the cell. So size of the cells. So what is the approximate size of the cell? We cannot say the particular size of the cell because the size usually differs in different cells. Say for example, mycoplasma. The smallest cell is the mycoplasma, which is also called as PP elbow. It is a pleuropneumonia-like organisms. It is the smallest cell because the size measures only about 0.3 micrometers. The size of the mycoplasma is about 0.3 micrometers, and which is the smallest cell. It is very important for your CTA and NEET, which is the smallest cell. Mycoplasma are also called as PPL, which measures only about 0.3 micrometers. And the largest cell is the ostrich egg. You know, ostrich, it is the largest bird which is having the largest cell. So smallest cell is mycoplasma, but the largest cell is the ostrich egg, which measures about 175 millimeter. Just observe, here it is micrometer, here it is millimeter. So the ostrich egg, it is a cell. Egg is always, it is considered as a cell. So ostrich egg, it measures about 175 millimeter, and it is the largest cell. The smallest cell is mycoplasma and largest cell is ostrich egg. And bacteria, the size of the bacteria measures about 0.2 to 5 micrometers. When we look at the viruses are still smaller than bacteria. We cannot say exact size of the viruses. We will say just they are smaller than the bacteria. And in case of multicellular organisms like erythrocytes are nothing but RBC. So RBCs measures about 7 micrometers. Lymphocytes are the type of WBC, and they measures about 6 micrometers, which are smaller than RBC. And other cells like nerve cell, other cells like kidney cells, intestine cells, etc. They measures about 20 to 30 micrometers. So the cells of kidney, intestine, etc. they measures about 20 to 30 micrometers. And the nerve cell is the longest cell. Nerve cell is the longest cell because which measures about 90 centimeters. Here we have talked about the micrometers, millimeter. Now the nerve cell measures about 90 centimeter. That's why it is the longest cell. So here we know the smallest cell, largest cell, and the longest cell. And human egg measures about 0.1 millimeters. So 0.1 millimeters. So this is about the size of these cells. I told you the size of the cell differs in different cells and you should remember the smallest, largest and longest cell. Now we will discuss about the shape of the cells. Shape of the cell. Again, the shape of the cell also differs in different cells. We cannot say all cells are similar. Here there is a diversity among the shape of the cells. Different cells are in different shapes. See, for example, the shape of the cell, it may be polygonal. Polygonal in the sense, already I have written the cells of the onion. They are usually either polygonal, rectangular, hexagonal. They may be spherical in nature. They are irregular, or it is also called as amoeboid. Irregular or amoeboid. They may be spindle shaped like this. They may be spherical in nature. It is a circular. It is spherical in nature. They may be flattened cells, cuboidal, kidney shaped cells, dumbbell shaped, columnar cells and elongated cells. So these are the different shape of cells we can see in an organism. So, and one more thing we should note down here, the shape of the cell depends upon the position as well as function. Try to remember, the shape of the cell depends upon the position and function. How it depends upon the position? See, for example, here you know the outermost skin. So the skin, in the skin, the outermost layers, the surface cells are called as epithelial cells, and the epithelial cells are always flattened cells, as they are present on the outer surface. The surface cells are usually epithelial cells and they are flattened cells. Even in our skin, the outermost cells are epithelial cells and they are usually the flattened cells. So that is how, what I am saying, it depends upon the position. As they are present on the outermost surface, they are flattened. Then how they are dependent upon the function? How shape depends upon the function. See, for example, when you look at the RBC, the red blood corpuscles, in case of human beings or any other animals, it is usually a biconcave structure. It is the surface view. When you observe the side view, here it is biconcave in nature. So why it is biconcave? Because these RBCs, they must pass into the capillaries. When you study the circulatory system or circulation chapter, you will come to know what are capillaries and why they have biconcave structure, everything. Now just remember, here they have biconcave in nature because they has to pass into the capillaries and they should carry oxygen. The red blood cells, they will carry oxygen. That's why they have biconcave in nature. In order to carry the oxygen, the shape of the RBC is like that. The function is to carry the oxygen, and to carry the oxygen, the shape is like that. That's why the shape of the RBC, it depends upon the function. And one more thing here, the WBC. So the WBCs are usually irregular in shape, or we will say amoeboid nature, because amoeba, it doesn't have a specific shape, it is an irregular shape. That's why the WBCs are also irregular in shape. But why WBCs are irregular? Because the main function of WBC is that phagocytosis. Phagocytosis. So what is meant by phagocytosis? It is a cell engulfing. See, whenever a foreign particle enters into our body, our immune system will get activated. It produces more number of WBC, especially lymphocytes. So those WBC, they will engulf the foreign particle. If for example, this is the foreign particle, this WBC, it will engulf that foreign. Engulf means it is eating. So WBC, they will eat off the foreign particle, that is called as cell engulfing or phagocytosis. So mainly for that function, in order to engulf the cells, the WBC is having this shape. And here these are spindle shape, and the spindle shaped cells can be seen in the stomach region, etc., etc. And these are the spherical cells which can be present in the leaves, etc. In most of the plant cells, we can find the presence of these circular cells. And one more thing, how the shape of the cell depends upon the function. Here the nerve cell is the longest cell I told you. So why the shape of the nerve cell is like that? Because in order to carry the impulses. See, whenever we touch the hard object, we will immediately take back our hand, which means because of these branch-like structures, they will immediately pass the impulse to your central nervous system. That's why the nerve cells having the shape like this. And even this columnar type of cells which are present in they are usually present in the this one plant cell. Usually in the leaf we can observe the columnar cells, and depending as I told you, the shape of these cells usually depends upon the position as well as function. I have given how it depends upon the position, and I have given example how it depends upon the function. So this is about the shape of the cells. So in this class we have discussed about an overview of the cell, what and all the components which are present in the cell, and size of the cell, smallest cell, largest cell and longest cell, and this is the shape of the cells. The shape is different in different cells, and the shape of the cell depends upon the position as well as function. And in the next class we will be discussing the types of cells. There is a prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell, and we will discuss few objective questions related to today's class. See, first question: the outermost boundary of animal cell is option A cell wall, option B cell membrane, option C glycocalyx, option D none of this. You know, in animal cell the outermost boundary will be cell membrane because they do not have cell wall. So here option B is correct. And second question: protoplasm is differentiated into option A nucleoplasm, option B nucleus, option C cytoplasm, and option D both B and C. So protoplasm is differentiated into both cytoplasm and nucleus. Then the answer is D, both B and C. Next question: the main area for cellular activities is that option A nucleus, option B ribosomes, option C cytoplasm, option D endoplasmic reticulum. Here cytoplasm is the main site for cellular activities. Option C is correct. Next, fourth question: prokaryotes do not have option A ribosomes, option B rhizophid material, option C cell wall, option D membrane bound nucleus. So in prokaryotes ribosomes are there, rhizophid material is there, cell wall is also present, but membrane bound nucleus is absent. So option D. And fifth question: the largest cell is option A human egg, option B ostrich egg, option C nerve cell, option D all of these. You know, the largest cell is the ostrich egg. So option B is correct. So this completes today's class. In the next class we will talk about the types of cells. Thank you.